Thank you all for coming tonight and welcome to the Strand. I'm Christina Foxley, the Director of Events, and I'm pleased to introduce you to Anne Michaels, author of The Winter Vault, which has awed critics with its many elegant, vibrant, and luminous passages. Her best-known work, Fugitive Pieces, won the Orange Prize, the Books in Canada First Novel Award, and the Trillium Book Award. Ms. Michaels has also received a National Magazine Award and the Canadian Authors Association Award for Poetry. Following her reading, Ms. Michaels will be happy to take your questions. We'll have a roving microphone, so please wait for that before you speak. And then she'll sign copies of her book for you, which you can purchase downstairs on your way out of the store. Please welcome acclaimed author and poet Anne Michaels to the Strand.
Thank you very much for coming tonight. Much appreciated on this hot New York night. And thank you to the Strand, one of the great bookshops anywhere. This book is very much an argument against loss, and it concerns three different historic events. The first event was the building of the Aswan Dam in the 1960s in Egypt, which displaced many people, the entire nation of Nubia, which was flooded by the dam, and also submerged hundreds and hundreds of archaeological sites. And there was a great campaign by UNESCO to try and save some of those sites and to record at least what would be lost. And their biggest project was the salvage of the Abu Simbel temples. And they launched a huge international campaign and collected money from school children all over the world, and they and many different countries put forth many ideas for how to save the temples, to raise it up, to float it up, to encase it in glass, all kinds of ideas. But in the end, they decided simply to take it apart, piece by piece, block by block, and re-erect it 60 meters higher away from the floodwaters. The dispossession of Nubia, this entire nation flooded. Those villages of extreme beauty and extreme harmony with their surroundings. Of course, none of those villages were saved, and hundreds more sites were lost under the waters. The second event in the book was the building of the St. Lawrence Seaway, which also dispossessed many towns and villages along the route, also dispossessed thousands of people. Graves and cemeteries, as in Nubia, were flooded, and the hydro company said, well, you know, we can move the bodies, we'll move the graves, as if it were a simple thing to do. And most people, of course, decided to leave the dead where they were, although for decades afterwards, people were afraid to swim in the river for fear that the dead would rise up into the water. And the third event is the rebuilding of Warsaw after the Second World War, which, as you probably know, was a very unusual circumstance, because the building was the city wasn't destroyed by aerial bombing or even so much by battle, but was destroyed through systematic deconstruction of the city. Buildings were assigned a number, and they were destroyed in sequence, like a kind of macabre, backwards town planning. The city was taken apart. And after the war, the Poles decided not only to rebuild the city, but to create an exact replica of the old city, of the old town. And this to me is such a heart-wrenching, heartbreaking decision, because that need is so understandable to bring back the past, to bring back the dead. But of course, we can't bring back the past. We can't bring back the dead. And what's left is a very distressing monument, this replication. Every cornerstone, every cornice, every stoop, every windowsill, every roof, every fresco was recreated exactly as how it was before the destruction. So the book is very concerned about dispossession, what it means to live in a place that's not your home, and in this world where it seems a very, very simple fact, almost a cliche, but I think something that reaches rather to the core of us, which is that many, many of us now no longer live in the place where we were born. We no longer are buried in the place where we were born. And this is actually a huge change from not that long ago. As one of the characters in the book asks, where do we belong? In the place where we were born, or the place where we're buried? The place where we fall in love, the place where our children are born? And all the characters in the book are looking at that question in different ways. I think I'll just start to read. There's a couple of paragraphs that form a preface to the book. I'll start there, and then I'll read just from the beginning of the book, which takes place in Egypt at the site of the Abu Simbel temples as they are being dismantled and re-erected. And the characters you'll hear about are Aviary, who's an engineer who's overseeing the moving of the temples, and Jean, his wife, who is a botanist. Perhaps we painted on our own skin with ochre and charcoal long before we painted on stone. In any case, 40,000 years ago, we left painted handprints on the cave walls of Lascaux, Ardennes, Chauvet. The black pigment used to paint the animals at Lascaux was made of manganese dioxide and ground quartz, and almost half the mixture was calcium phosphate. Calcium phosphate is produced by heating bone 400 degrees Celsius, then grinding it. We made our paints from the bones of the animals we painted. No image forgets this origin. The future casts its shadow on the past. In this way, first gestures contain everything. They are a kind of map. The first days of military occupation, the conception of a child, seeds and soil. Grief is desire in its purest distillation. With the first grave, the first time a name was sown in the earth, the invention of memory. No word forgets this origin.